We've discussed this toxic kind of background that a lot of artists have with money. And then what starts to happen is these people, myself included, you start something like this, you have this toxic money background and a lack of boundaries, and it becomes this big storm of like, well, is this space going to stay open, or is this thing going to continue on? And for me, it's been really hard to address those things, but I've had to, and I'm continually having to do it in order to let the podcast and our catalogs continue on.
Welcome to the Sunlight Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for creative people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're an artist, designer, or creative entrepreneur who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your own time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place. Hey, I'm interrupting my own podcast to tell you about a contest I am running just to help get this show off the ground with a little more visibility. It helps me so much when you subscribe to the show, rate it, review it, and share it with your friends. So I'm running a contest to help make this more fun. So I'm giving away 10 one-on-one consultations with me, which are Ask Me Anything consultations. You can ask me anything you want to about your taxes or financial situation. Winners will be announced Friday, September 16th. And here's what you have to do to enter to win one of those 10 spots. You have to subscribe to the show, rate the show, write a review of the show. It doesn't have to be long, but it should be genuine. And share the show with 3 friends. Use the little clicky button on Apple's Podcasts or Spotify. Then take a screenshot of your review, post it to your stories, and tag at Sunlight Tax. And that's going to be how I know you've done those things. Winners will be announced September 16th. Good luck. Back to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I am beyond excited to introduce to you today Erika Hess. I'm going to read her bio, and then Erika, we're going to jump in. Erika is a painter, curator, and host of the podcast, I Like Your Work. Hess's work includes paintings and drawings about gender, motherhood, and the environment. She's represented by Contemporary Art Matters in Columbus, Ohio. Her work has been exhibited nationally, including New York City, Brooklyn, Detroit, LA, Boston, and Philadelphia. In addition to her artwork, Hess is an active juror and curator for various publications and institutions. Hess was a co-founder of Musa Collective, an artist collective in Boston, and is creator and host of I Like Your Work podcast, a podcast dedicated to interviewing artists, curators, and collectors, including people like myself.
I love it.
And Erika got her MFA from Boston University. Like myself, she is basically my art twin. And I just want to say on a personal level, I sort of learned about Erika's reputation before I actually knew her. I mean, this is so crazy. We've never met in physical person, but we overlap in every conceivable way. And I was at an art opening in Boston talking to all these people, and people could not get enough of Erika. Just everybody had these wonderful things to say about you, Erika, because you are such a connector. Like, I was talking to this group of very shy artists, and they were like, Erika just makes things happen. She doesn't wait for things to come for her. She creates opportunities for other people. And she's just like a generous giver, connector, like let's lift all boats kind of an artist. And that is something I just have always loved about you, Erika, so much. You are just like generous in that incredible way, like expanding the space for everybody. And I just love that about you. So that is... Welcome.
Yeah, that is like the best intro I've ever been given on any podcast. So Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, it's just such a privilege to be here with you. And I'm excited for what you're creating for artists. And I love all those
Aw.
Boston artists that you're speaking of. And yeah, it's just thank you for saying all of that. I genuinely do love supporting artists and creating spaces for people. I mean, let's make something happen, right? Like let's help
I
each
love
other
it.
out.
I love it. Well, I think this is a big factor. I'm going to already throw out my first question and ask
Yeah.
you something different because I feel like you represent a quality in the art world that is the best possible quality, right? It's not, I'm going to sit in my studio and feel like moody about the fact that the world isn't knocking on my door. I'm going to go out and I'm going to create opportunity. And yes, this is going to benefit me and that's awesome, but I'm going to bring other people along with me and I'm going to like actually widen the space for everybody. So I think that's amazing. And I feel like your art, your curating, your podcast, all do these things for other people, even like the music collective in Boston. So
Well, one of the things I think about is what is life if you can't be hanging out with people you enjoy being around, right? Like whenever I create an opportunity or create something, let's say, I want to include as many generous people, talented people, interested people, people who maybe haven't been given a chance before, but have a lot to offer, a space, because then it's not just some like check off another project, but it's something where you're building relationships and connections with other people. Because at the end of the day, I mean, that's really what we have, right? Like that is what we have. We can go curate a million shows, we can do all the things, but if you're not really creating something larger than that, like for me anyway, what's the point, So I really want to create those spaces. And, it's interesting. One of the first people I had on the podcast was Sharon Loudon. And I think she is an excellent artist to look at for generosity. And, she she lit something up for me because she mentioned, whenever you're given an opportunity, think of how you can open that opportunity up to others. And I was like, a light bulb went off and I thought, that's right. I don't have to just take what is given to me. Like you get this show or you get to do this. Like, okay, I would love that show. Can I have Hannah write about me? Or can I bring in Hannah's work? Or can I, you know what I mean? Thinking outside of the box as artists is what we're good at. And I think we need to implement it in those other areas. So yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's not just, I mean, it's smart, but it's smart in the best way. It's smart, it's generous, it's kind, and it makes the world you want to live in. I mean, it's beautiful. So I want to talk about your work. You have all kinds of projects cooking, Erika, and we're going to get into those. But first, let's talk about your artwork. You're a really interesting painter. I had a deep dive on your website this morning. Will you talk to me a little bit about like where it comes from? First, just for those people who have never seen it before, just what it looks like, and tell me what it's about for you.
Yeah. So I think in order to really speak about my work, I have to give a little bit of my background, which is, I was trained from observation. I was the art student who you only had to take 2 figure drawing classes, and I signed up for one like every single semester. I just loved it. I loved working from observation, and I thought I was going to be a figure painter. I thought I was going to go to Indiana University and do the whole like figurative painting thing. And I got into Indiana and I decided to take a year off and try for Boston University because I wanted to challenge what I knew about art and what I could do with art. I felt like I was able to implement a narrative pretty clearly with a figure, but I didn't feel like paint, like the material of paint was doing what it could in terms of kind of being like a form of writing or poetry or expression, like there's different ways to apply paint to create a different feeling from the viewer. And that's where I wanted to be challenged. And John Walker, I mean, who better to learn from than someone like him? So that's when I decided to go, to Boston, and I started making, like, the figure disappeared out of my work and I started making abstract paintings for quite a few years. And
wow.
Yeah, working with paint as a medium, working with composition, and they were not wonderful paintings. They weren't terrible paintings. They're kind of great to look back on now, but I learned so much. And I was able to bring that forward into the work that I make now, which really brings together the looking part, looking at the world, thinking about the world, seeing how shadows are cast, all of those beautiful small moments. Like I was walking this morning with my son and there was a sprinkler system going off with like the light streaming behind it. And I'm like, oh my God, that's a painting. How can I put that in a painting? It's beautiful. We like just stood there and watched it for a while, and it was really special. So how do I bring, like that type of thing to these inventive landscapes, which is what I'm creating now, these invented spaces. And these invented spaces, I use a lot of color. I'm really interested in saturated, vibrant color, how that affects the emotional quality and tone of the piece. So bringing that to these invented landscapes that really are centered on the idea of this shaped puddle in the center. And the shaped puddle in the center really responds to a lot of things that have happened to all of us over the pandemic in the past 3 years, because that's where the Puddle series started. It started feeling overwhelmed. It started feeling like I couldn't do it all. It started in feeling, actually coming out of postpartum depression, where I literally felt like I was drowning. And I thought, wow, this idea of water, like it's so ingrained into our culture. I mean, it's talked about in various religious texts, it's part of stories, the idea of water as life and water as description towards our emotions. So I started running with that. And it's been about 2 years of making these water paintings, these puddle paintings, where I contain the puddle in the center and I try to push colors underneath and bring them back up. Like there's always this give and take, and they're invented, a lot of texture, in order to talk about different psychological spaces that we inhabit, mainly for women. I'm a cis woman, and that is my experience. And so I try to bring it into my paintings. Also, as a woman who has always been very motivated to work hard and achieve and have a career, and to go into the art world, and then also decide to have children, and how that can impact people's view of you and how you are, so that's kind of bringing it all together there. So there are women, like you can see right now, I'm starting to paint this figure in the puddle. So speaking to all of those things.
Wow. Okay. So there's so much there, and I want to dig in a little bit. One of the things that really struck me looking at your work, Erika, is how, in my view, a great work of art has to be kind of the medium, like the medium has to be appropriate for what you're making. Right. And when I look at your work, I'm like, oh my God, these have to be paintings. And that's like a marker of them being so good. It's like, and I really noticed that you are addressing feelings. Like, I think this is funny because in my sort of money work, I'm constantly talking about feelings, and people are like, I'm not supposed to talk about feelings. I'm like, we have to talk about feelings or we can't get beyond anything. So I just wanted to I really want to dig into the being a mother and a painter with you. But first I want to talk about feelings. Like what is it about your work? What is your relationship with that? Because I see it in the imagery, in the symbols, in the color. So can you talk to me about the feelings?
Yeah. So feelings are a huge motivator for my work, and it's intertwined in so many different levels. And what I find interesting about this discussion about feelings in work, and also being a woman and being a painter and coming to age at a certain time in the world, is that there was a moment where like the idea of feelings in a painting was too feminine.
Oh yes. Sorry, couldn't help myself.
No, right? No, I love it. Yeah. And I think that these ridiculous, what do you want to say? I mean, like patriarchal, whatever umbrellas that we're all existing under, all they do is limit everyone, and you can't create anything interesting. Like, and it's meant to keep you in a certain spot. So anyway, I didn't want to paint feelings for a long time, and that was not a good place to be for someone who needs to be making work that way. This limitation that I placed on myself from others. And
wait, let me just ask you, when you were making those original abstract paintings that were kind of a big surprise and shift for you back at BU, were they trying to not have this in them?
I don't know if I had the vocabulary for it yet. to be
Okay.
totally honest. You know,
Right.
if I look back, I can see the stories and the feelings in it. But at that
Yeah.
moment, I was just like, how do I figure out? I want to make paint do so much more. And I love painting. I love paint. Like, I am a painter. And I had a certain mark that I had that I was like, how do I challenge this? So I got into like wet sanding and, you know, like using gal kit in there and this and brooms and, you know, just everything, like kitchen sink basically, you know. And I think, yeah, there was actually a lot of feelings in that. Now that I'm saying it, I never thought of it that way. But how can you actually keep feelings out of a painting? Right?
That is a really good point. I mean, I think there's a lot of feeling and emotion in art, in all of the arts across the board, really. But at the same time, I mean, certainly BU in the era that you and I both were there, that was a very macho environment. And there was definitely a like, you got to try not to be a woman while you're there, is how I felt. I don't know about you. I don't know. I feel like men are very emotional and we don't talk about that, but people are always pointing out when women have feelings.
Oh, I know. It was definitely, you know, used against women in writing and theory, all these things in like, I would say like 70s, 80s. I think it started to change a little bit. It's still prevalent, you know, but it's changing a bit. Or maybe it's just like, we don't give a fuck. I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. But
I like that.
right. But the feelings and idea that are coming out in my paintings now are much more nuanced. Just because I've had 20 years, you know, I'll be 40 this year, 20 years of kind of making paintings and working with paint and living a life that wasn't always, you know, what you wanted it to be. And I think I really feel like the pandemic, for me, feeling very alone and very sad in a lot of ways, like we all were.
Yeah.
Allowed me to push the work even more. Also because we didn't have as many eyes on our work, you know, there weren't shows going on except online, you know. And that allowed me to finally take the deep dive into really exploring that. I mean, it also helped that I started going to therapy, and I think everybody should go to therapy. I've always been pro this, and all of my friends say these things, and I was always like, yeah, therapy's great. You know, I wasn't in it, but being able to talk about the world at large, the things that are happening, and then the things that are happening personally, really allowed me to bring it even more into my paintings. You know, I'm actually really interested in Jungian therapy, you know, working with symbols and you know, color even, and the symbols that we've had as humans in all cultures, like water as a symbol of the subconscious, the snake, you know, as a symbol, the sun, like these basic things have become a vocabulary for me to talk about what is going on in my life. And I think they're just so core to many people that they can't help but see their story in it. And that's what I want. You know, I want people to look at them and be able to feel something as well.
Oh, well, it's working.
Great. That is it.
So I want to talk about that scary precipice of becoming a mother when you're a painter, especially, you know, I went to the same art school that you did. And so I assume that you have a little bit of the same kind of voices in your head, but I remember being told some pretty insane things about how it was going to end my art career and a woman couldn't really be creative once she had a baby. Someone said that to me. So a teacher said that to me. Just tell me about how that landed with you. Cause you are a mother, you've said it yourself.
Yeah. So I felt that there were so many voices that were saying you couldn't be a serious artist and a mother, but never straight to my face, never straight out. It was always suggested in this sideways manner that almost makes you feel even more insecure in some ways. You know what I mean? If somebody just says something, you know what they're talking about. But if it's never directly said, but it's hinted at, it leaves you to wonder about a lot. And I really drank that Kool-Aid. You know, I was not planning on having children. I was not planning on getting married. These were not things that were going to be happening in my life. I was an artist. I was living in a really crappy place in Brooklyn, and that was going to be, you know, my future, and suffering for whatever, I don't know. I was really living, quote unquote, that lifestyle. And I had this moment where I was like, I'm fucking miserable, you know, like
Uh,
this is hard and I don't have health insurance. I don't have these things. I really need to take a moment and re-examine my life and what I'm doing. And the way I
mm.
actually did that, which led to getting married and having a mother was, or becoming a mother, was I decided I was going to work on a organic farm in Asheville of all places.
So amazing. If y'all don't know who are listening, I'm living in Nashville, speaking to
I,
Erika from Nashville.
I love Asheville. I love Asheville. I went and started working on this organic farm. I was like, I'm going to figure myself out. I've got to get out of the New York art world. I need to get some skills. Nobody's hiring
Mm-hmm.
me. I don't know what to do. So I did
Mm-hmm.
that. And because I was out of the city and not in that kind of grind that I normally was in, I ended up checking and receiving an email from somebody who wanted me to apply for a job at University of Michigan. And it was like stability. Like here I went into, like, I was like, I'm just going to
Yeah.
throw it all out and go live on an organic farm. I was living with like anarchists, no joke, which makes sense.
They're still here.
Yeah.
They're still here.
And I go from that to getting health insurance, a job, stability at University of Michigan, working there. And it was from there, finally being able to like have an income, finally being able to support myself, that I actually had the space to begin to think of a future. Because I think when you are an artist and you're in the middle of everything and you just really want to make paintings, but you don't have any money and you're struggling and there's so many people having success around you, it's hard to get your eyes up enough to actually start to plan for the future and look forward. And so University of Michigan allowed me to keep making paintings, to lift my head up and think, oh my gosh, I actually do want to have children. I do want to get married. And so I did these things, and it was yet another cliff to jump off of, another wilderness, another land to go into, because I didn't know any other artists who were doing this. There are artists doing it, of course, but
there are too. I know. I felt like I was the only artist in the world who was pregnant when I got pregnant. Yeah.
And it's, you know, nobody talked about it. It was, you know, and I've listened to interviews even just like 8 years ago where, you know, women did not want to talk about that. And they were told not to talk about it at their openings or anything else, which is crazy. But so I started trying to find other women artists who were doing these kind of things, which is actually what led to Musa Collective. I really felt like I needed community. I felt like I needed people. I felt scared. And so the way I think I deal with being scared sometimes is through action and gathering people who I feel like can support and also guide me. And so that's what I did. We started that space, and my career has only gotten better since having children.
That's so awesome.
I've gotten better. I mean, not that you have to have children for these things to happen, but for me personally, that's been my story.
That's so wonderful. And how encouraging too. I mean, I hope that there are young people, women, non-binary, who are listening to this and feeling like, seeing that, like, we're still here. It's 20 fucking years later. We've both got kids, and like our careers are better than they were. So it does take some real strength to go against those voices though, and to really take a critical eye. And I'm really glad to hear that you had that like sense of getting out of the grind, and because you can't do anything when you're in that incredibly restricted space.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, I wasn't even really making that good of paintings at that moment either, you know, because I didn't have the bandwidth because I was struggling so much to exist, you know? And so, I think all those things, when you can line them up, and I know it's hard. I mean, I was there living with the anarchists, you know, but you do need to somehow shift yourself into that spot. And I think it becomes hard to do mostly when you move to an area or a city where you really want to be, and there's this pressure to be there, but you don't have the finances to be there. You have to listen to yourself and do what's necessary to protect your well-being and to move forward.
Absolutely. God, I couldn't agree with that more. I can't tell you the number of people, friends of mine, whose careers, who were living in big, expensive cities. And of course, some city time is really key when you're an artist, because you want, first of all, to be at the shows and to like network and meet people and have studio visits. but it's really expensive to live there. And it's harder to have the freedom to make adventurous work when you have to grind so hard to make your rent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have had so many friends who lived in big, expensive cities move to more rural areas or more inexpensive cities, smaller cities, and their careers exploded. Like, this is a pattern. I'm totally a part of it.
both you and I, right? I mean, it's like,
totally.
It's amazing because you work so hard. You're a hard worker. I'm a hard worker. Artists are hard workers. So then you give them just a little bit of room and amazing things happen. It's really incredible.
I also think, like, I've told this to younger artists before, like, don't be scared of being the weirdo. Being the weirdo can be your calling card. Like, when you're in New York, nobody wants to talk to you because you're from New York. And actually, if you come visit New York from Indiana, from North Carolina, you're suddenly kind of interesting. And like, you're like, I was living for a decade in Brooklyn and you didn't talk to me then. But now that I'm coming and I'm a North Carolina artist, like, oh, what's going on with her?
Yeah, like what? So what's that like? And it's true. I think you really hit the nail here, which is being the weirdo or living your truth and following your path is really important and so hard to do. And it's true of your work and it's true of your life, and they're so intertwined, but it's so hard to do. And I feel like I've just started doing it over the past 5 years. You know what I mean? Like really listening and following that, because it's hard. It's hard, but the benefits are huge.
The benefits are infinite. Yeah. Yep. Agreed. I'm also connecting like your sort of generosity of spirit, and you're connecting other people and lifting other people up and creating opportunities with this idea of living your own truth. Like, I think your instincts were there. Your instincts were good. I
have this deep love of connecting people, and I've just discovered it's something like innate that's just been there. It's like how my brain works. I'm like, oh, you're in Asheville doing this. You need to know so-and-so and so-and-so, and let's do this, and I find it thrilling and exciting, and it gets me motivated. So yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about, first of all, your podcast. What a phenomenon. Your podcast is amazing. If you're listening and you haven't heard the I Like Your Work podcast, you should. I'll put it in the show notes. But what made you want to start it? How did you decide to start a podcast?
Yeah. So I mentioned that I had my daughter and I was in Boston, and me and some friends started Musa Collective, which is still running in Boston right now. And it came out of this idea of community, connection, being able to show our work, have conversations. And I loved it. Like, it was a wonderful experience. And after about 1.5 years of doing that, I knew that I was going to move. I knew I wanted to move back to my home state, to be close to family, to have a little bit more space, etc. And as I was getting ready to move, I just kept thinking like, okay, I've loved this experience with Musa Collective. Like, how can I do something else like this? And I had a lot of different ideas. But I was listening to podcasts a lot when I was painting. And originally my idea was to start like an art blog, but my imposter syndrome really acted up there. And I was like, I'm not a good enough writer to have an art blog. And I thought, but I love visiting studios and talking to artists about their work. And I feel very confident speaking. So podcast. So I just started it. And it's the crazy part is I started it right as we were leaving Boston, and we were relocating to Ohio, and we didn't have a house or anything. And we were staying with my mom, and it was so packed. And I would go out to our van to record the episodes. And so in the very early episodes, you can actually hear acorns hitting the top of the van.
I love that. Oh my God.
Yeah. I was like out there in an interview and I was like, oh my God. I mean, it's so loud, and I had no idea. And I just had to like keep going through it, to finish an interview and everything. But I thought someday I hope this is a good story. But you don't know. You don't know when you start something where it's going to go, you know? I had no idea how I Like Your Work would grow. And it has been such a wonderful space for me to connect with people. And I feel like it's such a blessing. And I feel so incredibly fortunate to be able to have conversations with artists whose work I truly do love, and I'm genuinely interested in who they are. And the fact that other people enjoy hearing those conversations and learn from them. And that's really where it started to take off, where people were writing to me about how they were using it in their classrooms, you know, in college and these types of things, or not to feel lonely in a studio, which is what I envision, people in their studio wanting to hear from other artists. And so that's really how it started, you know, and it's just been a ride since then.
So what have you learned?
I think there's a couple different things. There's a couple different areas I feel like I've really grown. One is about believing in yourself and not knowing where something's going to go, like I mentioned earlier, and staying after it and believing in yourself. And the other has to do with painting, you know. So, and they're actually kind of similar in a way. And it seems to be a thread that's running through this conversation, I think. But what I learned just about really following something through is that nobody is going to create things for you. We have to put in that work and that time. And it doesn't have to be a punishing way. It could be a fun way. Like you can have fun with the things that you're creating and keep it interesting and light and an experiment. Mostly now with the internet, it's kind of like this wild west of people creating spaces and podcasts and whatever they can think of. And I think when you lean into that enjoyment is when I can continue being creative and thinking up new things. And that's what I've discovered I really love about the podcast, is coming up with new ideas of ways we can serve artists, ways that we can build relationships, you know, through meetups or through parties or, you know, through our membership, just different ways of connecting with people. And I've also learned I'm a terrible editor.
Yeah.
You learn the things you're not good at too, right? And that's a beautiful thing, you know, to understand the things that you're not good at. And it does not mean you're a bad person or that I need to go become a better in that area. It just means, okay, that's somebody else's wheelhouse. And there's somebody else that's amazing and loves doing that. Let that go. Focus on your thing, you know? And the other thing in terms of interviewing so many artists and hearing, you know, really vulnerable stories as well, is that we're all really going through the same thing in a lot of ways, which is hardships, which is imposter syndrome, which is learning to believe in yourself and finally getting to a point where you trust the work. Because I think when you trust the work is when you make great work and when things explode for you. But it's hard to do because you have to like let it do its thing. And you might have an idea of where you want it to go, like, oh, I want it to be here because I saw this, or this is what I'm thinking. But you have to let it lead in a way, because that's where things are really coming through you. And those are the really powerful parts of it. So like trusting that. So the threads that I was talking about in both of these areas, it really comes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is believing and trusting in yourself for your own path, your own thing that you were created to do.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny, as you're talking about this, your podcast, you could have been talking about making paintings. It's so similar.
Right? Painting's life. It's life.
Painting is life. Yeah, I find that really, really fascinating. It honestly is one of the pleasures of getting older. Like, I love being a painter who's been working for 20 years at this point. Honestly, I'm starting to love being a business owner who's been in business for 8 years?
Oh, I applaud that. I can't wait to hit that point as well. But it's scary at first, right? Like, even being a painter was hard. Like, what am I doing here? You know, business owner. I feel like I'm in the middle of that. For so many of us people listening, you may not have a background in business. Hannah and I did not, you know? And so it's kind of, if I can keep it exciting.
You might have an anti-background.
Yes.
Which is what I feel like I had.
That's me too. Which is why Hannah and I have always gotten along so well, because I can be like, oh my God, you know what I'm thinking here. An anti-background, and I still struggle against it. I mean, it's really crazy the patterns that are created in our youth that we have to figure out ways to break to be the people we need to be,
Absolutely. But I think that trust is really important. Like, it is so freaking scary when you start anything, right? Painting is scary. Have you ever talked to an art historian who's like absolutely terrified of trying their own hand at art? I mean, like, that is an epidemic. That's a secret epidemic out there.
I didn't know that. That's so interesting. I didn't.
Oh, just pay attention when you talk to people. Like, because most programs, like when you're in art history programs, you have to take some studio art, and just talk to people who have like an art history degree about their studio art experience. So you'll hear some stories. You'll hear their imposter syndrome coming out. But I'm always like, but that's how you start. Like, you have to be terrible at it at first. Like that's actually how it starts. You can't be good until you've been terrible for a little while.
And doesn't that take the pressure off? It's like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know how to do this yet, but I'm just beginning. How would I know, And we all start out terrible. And there's a comfort in that,
For sure. But I also love, like, I think one of that rich zones to me is like that when you can trust fall into it, when you've been doing it long enough that it's going to find you again. Like this weird thing I'm doing and I don't know why. And literally I could be talking about podcasting, business, or painting right now. Doesn't even matter. This weird thing I'm doing right now and I don't know why. There is a reason inside of you, and just give it some time and keep going, and the reason will come out. It'll reveal itself.
Yes, Hannah. I love that you say that, because it's so true. And like you said, in all facets, like there's stuff in my paintings that I just discovered I was doing in grad school. And I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about that painting, but here it's coming back. And then also, when I was coming out of grad school, I kept trying to create something like this. And I didn't think about it. Like, I created these zines. I actually did do a couple artist interviews that were done verbally that I then transcribed and would put in these zines and publications. And and they never took off. Maybe it wasn't my time. I don't know. But like you said, these things, they just keep coming back. I always mention something that Stanley Lewis told me when I was at Chautauqua, which is, you're going to spend the rest of your career remembering things you already learned. And I always think of that. I think of it all the time in all parts of my life. I feel like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like, but you come back to it, Oh
my gosh. Boy, parenting loops into this conversation, doesn't it? Like,
yes.
Wait a minute. My mother's voice just came out through my mouth.
Right? And I'm like, oh, how is this happening? But it does, it does. I see why she harped on certain things for me now. And I'm like, oh, yep. I get it.
I get it. I know. It's like, as you move through life, you just have more wisdom, and you can revisit things that were said to you you didn't understand at the time. They have totally new meaning.
Yeah. And that's such a beautiful thing, because it means we're constantly learning and evolving and changing, because otherwise life would be so boring. I used to think that I wanted to be exactly the same, when I was 22 years old. I don't want to ever change. I'm like this artist. I'm doing these things. Thank God I changed.
Oh man, you couldn't pay me to be in my 20s again.
Oh, I mean, me either.
I miss that butt. But besides that, the brain, I wouldn't trade for anything.
No.
Oh my God. So I'm really curious, like, I want to talk about, we touched a little bit on like entrepreneurship and starting into business. And I know that you're kind of entering a little bit of new territory with this membership you've created. I want you to talk to me a little bit about why you decided to create a membership. And then this can range around, because I also want to talk about just like what you're seeing in the art world. What are you responding to? What's the why behind it?
Yeah, so I was really excited to start a membership because I love connecting with people and I love serving people to a certain extent and like sharing my knowledge. It's one of the things I enjoy doing. So I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to do a membership. And wow, has it been an experience, a new experience? Because the big thing I think I've learned as an entrepreneur is that for me, it's easy to have ideas. And I have a lot of knowledge from painting, from my MFA, from working in New York, from running the podcast, open calls, curation, all these things. And I want to share it. And that's easy for me to do that, to write that part. The hard part is making sure everything functions online in a certain way where people can have access to it. And I think this is true of a lot of endeavors, anything you're going to be doing, like a podcast, you're listening to this podcast, but there's a lot of moving parts behind it, like scheduling, having a good calendar that's working with that, having the editing software, having it get up online, having the show, all these parts. And for me in the membership and in general, just for anybody who's thinking about going into becoming an entrepreneur or creating something, which I highly suggest you do, is to know that you're not alone and being like, oh my God, let's get all this software and everything to work together, because you're learning a lot of different languages to put together. But in terms of building the membership, it goes back to like, wow, I have a lot of information that I wish I would have had when I was a younger artist. Nobody talked about certain things. This information wasn't out there. And I still have conversations with mid-career artists and artists who are older, than myself, who have questions about these different parts of being an artist, because we all learned how to paint. We all learned how to make whatever. We all learned how to do that. But like you said, we didn't learn the business end. And that is just shooting ourselves in the foot, not to understand these things, not to understand how to run your studio professionally or having your materials organized. So those are all the things that I started covering in the membership. And it really starts from a point and moves up, which I start with organizing materials, because that was one of the biggest things working in other artist studios that I noticed was they have a really great system for keeping everything together. And most artists I know don't have that.
Fascinating.
Artists who are established or doing well have that. But these younger artists who are like, I want a gallery, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I was that artist at one time. Yeah. They're like, don't know how to put it all together so that it's easy to apply to these things. So that's where we start. We talk about photographing work. We talk about artist statements, a lot of really great stuff. Again, as a way to serve artists and build communities so that people can share opportunities. I think that's another big thing that we need as artists, is like a cohort, if you will, of people you can talk to about your work and also share opportunities, because we're only one person. And when you're doing social media and you're doing your website and you're trying to apply and you're making the work itself, that's really overwhelming. So like, how can we shift some of that so that you don't have to do it all? And that's why I also have templates where people can like, okay, you want to update your CV and maybe it looks kind of bad. Here's some templates you can use. Same thing with like downloading the Google Drive system that I use to organize everything. You can download that and use it. It's all there laid out for you. I've done that work so you don't have to, because why should you do that? I'd rather see your paintings.
Love that. I love that. So you're helping people kind of refocus back on their studio time and what they do well by helping share the resources on the hard stuff, the organizational stuff.
Yeah. Yep. All of those good things. And even also just how to reach out. Like, how do you reach out to a podcaster or a space or somebody who's running a magazine? Like, how do you approach press? And these were things that I really learned from running I Like Your Work and having our open calls and jurying for other spaces. It's like, I've now been on that other side. So I want to share that information with people.
That's awesome. So valuable. Hey, I'm interrupting my own podcast to tell you about a contest I am running just to help get this show off the ground with a little more visibility. It helps me so much when you subscribe to the show, rate it, review it, and share it with your friends. So I'm running a contest to help make this more fun. So I'm giving away 10 one-on-one consultations with me which are Ask Me Anything consultations. You can ask me anything you want to about your taxes or financial situation. Winners will be announced Friday, September 16th. And here's what you have to do to enter to win one of those 10 spots. You have to subscribe to the show, rate the show, write a review of the show. It doesn't have to be long, but it should be genuine. And share the show with 3 friends. Use the little clicky button on Apple's Podcasts or Spotify. Then take a screenshot of your review, post it to your stories, and tag at Sunlight Tax. And that's going to be how I know you've done those things. Winners will be announced September 16th. Good luck. Back to the show. So tell me, I'm just curious, because you've been running the I Like Your Work podcast and gathering all these skills for a long time now, I'm curious what you've seen in the art world. Have things changed? What are you seeing people struggle with now?
Yeah, I was actually just writing about this morning. So one thing I've really noticed is it's wonderful that we have so many opportunities to show our work and be engaged via a space like this, like a podcast or online or on Instagram. It's incredible. It's been a game changer. It's amazing. Before you had to go to an actual gallery space to talk to someone, to make a connection. So maybe they'd show your work, but now front doors are all around you. You just have to jump online and there's a front door to a gallery. You know what I mean? And you can start engaging. It's crazy. That being said, the flip of this is that there are no rules surrounding any of this. There are no boundaries surrounding any of this. And what that means is it can spiral into this burnout of constantly trying to interact, constantly trying to get your work out there, or totally avoiding it. And we need to find this middle ground as artists so that we have a healthy space to exist online with our work, connecting, etc., having those boundaries set up, and then being able to get into the studio without these things overlapping too much. Because otherwise, it's people burn out. There's so many opportunities out there. I mean, you could just sit there and apply to stuff all day long, or update your website all day long. There's so many things. Yeah. You have to figure out how to put stops on it. So I think that's what artists are struggling with, is that, and then everything's always evolving. So, artists really got a handle on posting images on Instagram and okay, I got my grid and I got this. And then there's Reels, remember Instagram TV? What happened with that? People are trying to learn these new tools and then they're taken away, or they learn it and then a new one is implemented, and that's going to continue on. And I think a lot of people struggle with that as well. Okay, well, how am I supposed to do this? What's the point? I feel behind. And it causes that imposter syndrome to really rear its ugly head again, and that leaks into our studio. So boundaries, I think are huge. It's something I'm really all about. And I think as an entrepreneur, and you would probably agree, or somebody who's running a business, you have to have these boundaries set up or chaos ensues,
Oh my God, I couldn't do anything without them. In fact, I get emails on the regular from artists saying how much they appreciate me upholding boundaries, that it gives them permission to do it in their own life.
That's amazing.
And I found, for me, there was starting a business really highlighted ways that I wanted to have boundaries that I found a little harder to uphold in art than I did in tax work, but actually once I realized that I could, I brought them back over to art. So for example, when you're doing somebody's tax, I just made a policy of I'm not going to do friends and family discounts, because everyone who's going to come in the door is going to be a friend in some way or another. So it's I have ways that I can be generous to people I have personal relationships with, but they don't involve discounting. And that's been a big one for me. And honestly, if I didn't do it, I'd be kind of in a rough spot when you interact 100% with friends.
I think this is a really, really big topic, and I feel like we could talk about it for a million podcasts. But
absolutely,
we've discussed this toxic kind of background that a lot of artists have with money, and then the space that we're really entering, and I feel like I always think of Michelle Grabner. She was like a painter curator and one of the first people kind of opening this path to wearing a lot of hats that was being accepted professionally. And now there's more and more people doing that. Thank God.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's wonderful. But what starts to happen is these people, myself included, you start something like this, you have this toxic money background and a lack of boundaries, not because there's something wrong, but just because you never had to have them in place before because you weren't doing this type of work. And it becomes this big storm of like, well, is this space going to stay open, or is this thing going to continue on? And for me, it's been really hard to address those things, but I've had to, and I'm continually having to do it in order to let the podcast and our catalogs continue on. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So, yeah.
Man. Yeah, I really relate to that. I feel like, there's some ways in which I think about this a lot. Like artists, when you sell paintings, like we both do, you might, you're lucky. It's a good year if you sell 15 paintings, right? And I mean, for me, that's maybe a really good year.
That's a great year, Hannah. Can I have your year?
But so you just don't have that many interactions. Whereas like for me, like in tax work and my program that I run, like I have hundreds of people who I'm interacting with pretty constantly. So if somebody were to ask for a refund for a painting, it would kill me. It would kill me. It actually wouldn't kill me, but I feel like it would kill me. Right. And I know that you can relate to that.
Yep.
But like in running a business where you interact with people and the touch point is a little lighter than a, $10,000 painting, people will ask for refunds. In fact, if you just go out and ask literally any business owner, every single one of them has refund requests. Like it is just a policy you have to have. You have to put it in your contract. You have to have a policy. You have to enforce it. And also it's not even enough to just write it down and say, this is my policy. You have to enforce it. You have to tell them, you have to be like, you have to explain it. You have to uphold it. I think like, it's really hard to come to the realization like, oh, this is a thing I'm going to have to handle. This just exists. This is a cost of doing business and not a personal failure. So I think it can be hard to transition into business or even honestly difficult interactions in the art world because you don't have them very much. You just do not have this repetition where you get to practice like, oh, okay, I need to say up front every time, I just want you to know this is my refund policy,
Oh my gosh, there's so much goodness in there, Hannah. I'm going to listen to that part of this podcast over and over again because it's so true. A couple of things really just lit up for me. The last part you were saying about repetition, I think anytime you're trying something new, like we said, you're never good at it, but the repetition makes you better and better and better. And then it doesn't sting as much. You know what I mean? And you get you understand it, you see what's coming. And I remember somebody at BU saying every opportunity you get to speak about your work, take it, because the first however many are going to be probably pretty bad, but it gives you the experience, and you have to have the experience. You have to do the thing. You can't just read about the thing. You've got to do it and experience it. And that is what teaches you. And then you can handle it a lot better. And that's just so good, Hannah. Oh, I love it.
Thanks. I think about that one so often because these things would kill me when they happened in my studio. And now they happen all the freaking time. It's not that I thought, oh, the world will be a better place when no one's ever mad at me, when nobody ever has an unpleasant interaction with me. And now I run a business. I'm like, oh, I just have to learn how to deal with it when people are mad at me. It's not that my life isn't going to improve because this goes away. My life is going to improve because I learn how to deal with this that exists.
I just needed to hear that myself, Hannah, right now. Okay. That was so good. I love it. And it's true. I keep picturing my first, when I started an email list, which I never wanted to do. This was years ago. And that was a hard step. And then I got my first unsubscribe and I was like, oh my God, I was bummed out. And now I get them all the time. And I mean, it's just life. But that first time, can be really hard in anything, but you
Oh my
live,
gosh.
you live through it. Doesn't kill you. You move on. You're
Yeah.
good.
Email unsubscribes are probably the first stepping stone that probably artists have this experience of seeing people unsubscribe. Please, just a PSA to all of you listening, please stop getting alerts for your unsubscribes. Just ignore it.
Yeah,
Like it exists. It's
so
fine.
true. Oh my
You
gosh.
don't need to dwell in that.
Huge. You don't need to know. You don't need to know. It's not going to make you feel better. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
My friend ended up, she runs a business and she was able to see who stopped following her on Instagram. Totally screwed up her week, you know, like
oh God, I don't look. I don't look.
Don't check. No.
Never look at that. Why would you do it? That's like saying I hate myself and I'd really rather not get anything productive done today.
You want to wallow. You want some Netflix and some ice cream and chill out. Yeah, no, don't do it.
Ooh, I prefer to wallow without a pit in my stomach.
Oh, right?
Oh my God. Yeah. Amazing. So let me pull this out. I could talk about this forever. Oh my God. We have to have let's have a follow-up in a couple months where we talk about entrepreneurship, art lessons and entrepreneurship. Oh my God. But I just want to ask you a couple more questions. I'm curious about, frankly, selfishly, I'm curious about people like me, the old people who feel, I'm mid-career. I think I finally graduated out of emerging and I'm mid-career.
I love it.
And I'm just curious because you've said this to me once. I hope it's okay to say it out loud here, but that you are really good at bridging sort of what's going on, what's fresh, what newbies in the art world are going through and experiencing, and then what olds like me, what the mid-career artists are doing. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, I would love to. And Hannah, you were not old, okay, at all. And yeah,
I'm proudly in my fuck you 40s, and I would not trade it for the world.
I'm entering this year very soon. I'm very excited about it. Nice. I think it's going to be a spectacular decade, and beyond. But absolutely. Yeah, it was actually an artist who brought this up to me, and I hadn't thought of it this way or seen it this way, but she is in her 40s, and she's like, a Gen Xer. And she was saying that technically my age and where I'm at is like a geriatric millennial.
Oh God. Oh. Who came up with that?
Oh, I know, right? She's like, it's terrible. This is such a terrible name. But, I'm like right in between Gen Xers, and that's many and most of my friends, and millennials, like I'm right there on the edge. And so my digital landscape and experience growing up was just different enough from my Gen Xer friend who was bringing this up that I'm able to kind of bridge these two worlds in a way that I can explain. For example, I'm teaching something on Reels right now to an area of people who are like, I don't know anything about this. I feel like I should know something about it. And I'm like, well, I know some because I'm working on it and doing this, but I can take what's happening here. And for those people that can't obviously see this, I'm motioning to millennials, to the other, as she described it, the bitter, she was like, I'm bitterly smoking my cigarette in the corner, like that generation. And I feel that, I am that, but I can also speak to like this younger generation. I try to, it's getting harder, I'm noticing each year, in a digital format, in a digital landscape. And when she mentioned all of this, I thought, oh my God, because a lot of people that I work with are in their 50s, 60s, 40s, and they're asking for help on things that millennials have done their whole life. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that was a really cool thing to think about, and a way to serve and help and like, I don't know. Yeah. Just share knowledge.
I love it. Is your membership program geared towards one or the other of those groups particularly?
It's not geared towards one or the other, but I definitely have both. I feel like the membership where it's really serving people, it's serving people who are like getting out of grad school and had a wonderful experience painting or making, but didn't learn any of the other things. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't learn how to put together these materials in a way or how to approach a space or or any of that, which I did not learn in grad school. You know, I painted my ass off for 2 years and it was wonderful, but I came out having to learn all this stuff embarrassing ways by failing, you know?
Oh God. Yes. So much embarrassment. Yes. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. So I help artists like that. And then artists who are older, who are like, okay, I want to do this. Like, I'm ready to do this. How do I do this? You know, and they have a background, but they're just not sure how to move forward.
Yeah.
So those are the two spaces that I feel like I serve really well.
That's fantastic. Very cool. So if people want to check out your membership, where should they go, Erika?
Yep. So you can go to theworksmembership.com. It's linked through our other website, which is I Like Your Work podcast. You can go into our Instagram bio and find it there. We only open the doors during specific times of the year so that we can really try and serve the artists that are coming in. So you can get on a wait list if it is not open, but we will be launching right after season 5 of I Like Your Work goes live. So keep your ears and eyes open.
Fantastic. So we're speaking as we're talking right now, it's July, but this episode is going to drop when my podcast debuts for the first time. And you and I are doing a little event together, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Let's talk about that.
It is going to be fabulous. I am so excited. So we are going to be co-hosting a panel at Piano Craft Gallery in Boston, Massachusetts. And it is going to be basically a big party. So it's going to be part of the I Like Your Work fall exhibitions. There's going to be an opening. I'm curating the show. I'm going to give a gallery talk and tour. There's going to be music, food, drinks, as long as COVID doesn't interfere with anything again. And it's just fantastic. Last year was our first year to do a launch party, and it was at Piano Craft Gallery, and it was during COVID, so everybody was masked, and we didn't have any food or drinks, no wine or anything like you would normally have, and it was so fun. Like, I couldn't believe how fun it was, you know? And I just looked up and saw all these amazing artists, all this amazing artwork. It was just this energy, this positive energy of people being there together and supporting one another. It is such a fun time. So I hope that you guys will come out to the opening. It'll be September 2nd at Piano Craft Gallery in Boston. And Hannah and I are going to be talking and lots of artwork. It's a good time.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. I'm so excited.
Yeah,
Erika, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. I could talk to you forever, and I would love to have you back. So let's have a revisit.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All the resources we mentioned will be in the show notes for you. And so definitely do check out Erika's membership. And if you have not listened to the I Like Your Work podcast, it is a great studio listen. So definitely check it out. Erika, thank you so much for being here.
It's been a blast. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. It really helps, and share it with a friend. I'm so grateful. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.